Welcome back, and joining us now is ABC 7 News Channel 8 Chief Meteorologist Doug Hill. Doug, it's always great having you here.
A fun Friday, huh?
It is a fun Friday.
An interesting couple of days here.
Good to have you with us. I really appreciate your time.
Sure.
In a minute, I want to talk about what some of the misinformation is, or the false impression people might have about the weather we're experiencing, the weather that's headed our way, and what we can expect this weekend and maybe into Monday. I want to get people into the Monday commute as best we can. Talk to us, though, just in broad terms, if you can, about what your expectation is. People have weekend plans. They want to salvage those plans the best they can. What do you expect?
Okay, I think tomorrow is going to be a rather breezy day around the area with scattered showers. The heaviest rain is going to fall today and tonight into tomorrow morning. So most of the day tomorrow just going to be very gusty, very breezy with occasional showers. Sunday looks better. Can't rule out a few showers. It's going to be breezy and cloudy as well. Monday, I think the way it's looking right now, if the new hurricane track holds true, I think Monday is going to probably be a partly to mostly cloudy and breezy day without much issue at all locally. Different stories when you're along the mid-Atlantic coastline, Delaware, Maryland beaches.
So I could play golf on Monday and get the benefit of lift clean in place? Is that what I hear?
There could be a shower or two, can't rule it out, but unless something totally dramatically and unexpected happens where the storm makes a left-hand turn, which appears not likely at all, I think we'll get better in time. Would you like to see the updates? I've got them loaded in the weather computer, so if we can take our weather graphics. Let me give you the very latest from the National Hurricane Center in Miami, and here is the latest images. That bright red area shows the most violent, rain-producing, windy part of the storm, still located in the Bahamas. Now, the spaghetti plots, which everybody seems to love, look on the right-hand side of your screen. See, they're all starting to converge on similar solutions now, especially the main systems that we're so relied upon. Those have all taken this scenario off to the east, and that makes sense. That's the one the Euro had figured out 3 days ago that everybody else was kind of ignoring because it was an outlier. So here's the deal. 130-mile-per-hour winds. It's moving northwesterly at 3, but it's going to turn more to the north and northeast over the next few days and accelerate well offshore. So there will be no direct effects as far as rain or direct hurricane winds along the coast. However, there will be a relationship between strong high pressure over eastern Canada and the low pressure of the hurricane. They're going to keep the winds and the surf pounding the mid-Atlantic coast and eventually the northeast Atlantic coast for the next 3 or 4 days. So flooding, beach erosion, that's going to be a coastal thing. Locally, we can talk about that, the effects from what we're having now, which is very heavy rain. And between now and 9 a.m. Sunday morning, the metro area is going to get about 3 more inches of rain and maybe a bit more than that in areas to the south and west. So we've got 2 separate systems, unrelated. But I do, if we have a moment, just want to show you, and this is our flood watch, you should know, because that's in effect till tomorrow morning in bright green. But check this out. You see the satellite, this is our water vapor, and if you look closely where the hurricane is, the bottom of the screen, you can see as you go to the upper left, you can see some moisture that is funneling from the hurricane just off South Carolina. So there's a nexus that is developed where there is indeed tropical moisture being pulled out of the hurricane now that is enhancing the rainfall we have overhead. And you can see as we zoom in, it's right now up the coast. That heavier axis of rain over eastern North Carolina, that's going to get pulled into our area late this afternoon and tonight, and that's why we're going to get the flooding issues. Here you see it on radar, the darker greens and yellows and reds. That is headed northbound, so we have a lot of rain tonight and tomorrow. But in the big picture, related to the hurricane, we're going to get off easy, but we're not out of the woods because the winds we're going to have, the extremely high tides, localized flooding from the torrential rain.
Great images and a great sequence of images, and we're so delighted you're here, and we have all the assets of the ABC 7 News Channel 8 weather team to help us get a handle on what's happening and what we expect. Let me open up the phone lines now. If you have a weather question for Doug Hill, we have several more minutes. Doug's busy getting ready for the next news, but he's here for several more minutes. So if you have a weather question for Doug, this is such a great opportunity for us to talk in depth about the weather with the guy here who leads our efforts. So join us at 703-387-1020. If you grab an open line now, it increases the chances we'll get to your call and your question. So for those of you watching in the 11 a.m. hour, the number, 703-387-1020, talking weather with our man Doug Hill. To the phones will go. Your questions and comments in the moments ahead. There's been a fair amount of discussion about whether we're having or are expecting a nor'easter. Can you unpack some of that?
Yeah, this is not a nor'easter. A nor'easter is a cyclone, a low pressure center that moves up the coast from south to north. we see a lot of them, get a lot of beach damage. In fact, historically, we get much more damage from a nor'easter along the mid-Atlantic coast than we do hurricanes. But the word nor'easter, the name comes from the fact that the winds blow from the northeast to the southwest when those coastal storms come up. So maybe people are confused because it's northeasterly winds, but there's no storm causing this. And one of the things you were talking about, misconceptions, yesterday morning I'm driving to work listening on the radio to a network broadcast, news network, not ABC, not our own, and they pitched to a reporter live in Alexandria. You know Alexandria always floods. Sure. It happens, okay? But it happens from winds more than not. So they pitched the reporter, and the reporter is there this yesterday morning, like 10:30, saying, well, the rain is really high and the water is high. We're already feeling the effects of the hurricane. So I was, in my car coming across the 14th Bridge, no, we're not! So it's not a nor'easter. We're having no effects from the hurricane yet, and the direct effects I think we're going to miss. But the combination I explained between the high pressure to the north and the hurricane is going to make it really breezy and windy around here. Gale warnings in effect on the bay right now. You do not want to be on the Chesapeake Bay or tidal rivers now.
The numbers that you shared with us a moment ago about how much rain we can expect, I have the sense that we don't have much more ability. The ground in our region now doesn't have much more ability to absorb.
No. We've had 2 to 5 inches or more rain over the past 4 or 5 days. So that's why the flash flood watch is. But it's not going to be a historic flood for us. I mean, it's a lot of rain over several days. Remember, we went for a long period without any rain. But there will be flooding. Creeks and streams are going to flow into the Potomac. When I just came across the 14th Street Bridge a while ago, the Potomac River level is high. You can see that. And once the tributaries and creeks and streams flow into the Potomac over the next few days, we're going to have to keep an eye on possible river flooding.
If we have time, I want to talk about what property people who maybe live in this area, but maybe they have a second home, vacation home, what have you, somewhere in the Delmarva region, closer to the coast than we are here, what preparations they might be wise to take advantage of. But let's go to the phones. I don't want to keep people holding. So Jim and Bowie, thanks for dialing in, and you're on the air with Doug Hill.
Mr. Hill, I like listening to you. You're pretty accurate with your weather predictions. My question is, Mr. Hill, with this hurricane, how much would the force of the winds be inland?
Okay, if you're talking inland west of the Chesapeake Bay, you're going to see the winds ramp up probably, if you're in the D.C. metro area, probably 25 to 30 mile per hour winds tonight, tomorrow into early Sunday with gusts to 35 or 40. The closer you are to the bay, the stronger the winds will be. And then when you get on the other side of the bay on the eastern shore, the closer you get to the Maryland-Delaware shoreline, even stronger the winds will be.
Thanks, Jim, and we'll go back to the phones as more of your calls come in. Weather questions for Doug Hill, our chief meteorologist here, 703-387-1020, the number. Dial in, and you can ask your weather question just as Jim did. There were some fascinating early predictions, and I think we all understand that predictions that are days out from an event are potential. They are potential evolutions of whatever the snow event, the rain event, the hurricane, whatever it is. Some of those were quite dramatic. There were comparisons as we looked, as folks looked at Joaquin in the early stages. There was talk about this could be like Sandy. What happened? Why? What were the forces that seemed to have made this a dodged bullet, if you will?
During the initial stages of the storm, like 3 days ago, 2 days ago, when it started to get a lot stronger, the storm was about 150, 200 miles north of the Bahamas and heading towards the Bahamas. The problem is there are no real data points. There are no weather stations there, so there's no real data to collect other than the hurricane hunters flying routes through the storm and then the Gulfstream 4 jet flying high above the storm at higher speeds sampling. So the amount of data wasn't really good. It was good data, but there wasn't much of it. There was no ground data, not many weather balloons that could help. So there wasn't a lot for the computer models to work with when each computer model run is initialized and run. However, over the past 24 to 30 hours, now that it's getting a little bit, they've stepped up the frequency of flights by the Gulfstream jet. They've sent more weather balloons up, more dropson canisters, so they're getting more data. So you're having more high-end, high-value data fed into the models, so you're getting better forecasts. Something the Euro knew early on, and then the other mainstream models glommed onto. So that's why it was a lack of data. So the farther north it goes, the more it sets a path, the more accurate the data will become, and the more accurate the course predictions will be over the next few days.
We mentioned people who own property closer to the coast. Mary dials in from Ocean City. Mary, welcome. What's it like where you are? And go ahead. Your question for Doug Hill. Line 3, Mary. Are you there, Mary? Hi, Mary. You're on the air. Go right ahead.
Oh, hi. I have a question for Doug Hill.
You're speaking with him, yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's my granddaughter's birthday party on Sunday, and we wanted to do it outside, and it's around 11 o'clock.
And you're going to do that in Ocean City?
No, this is in Potomac, Maryland.
Oh, okay. All right, so Sunday morning in Potomac is going to be cloudy. It's going to be quite breezy. There could be a few showers, but there will not be any heavy rain. So it's also going to have temperatures in the upper 50s, so it's going to be very chilly and breezy and damp outside of Potomac on Sunday morning.
Mary, good luck with the party, and thanks for watching. Thanks very much for calling in. Can you talk to us about the European weather model that you've referenced here, and I think you and I have talked about a little bit in the past? It feels like if the weather prediction models were a division in sports, they would be league leaders. What is that a fair observation, and what's happening?
Inside the meteorological community, the federal government and private forecasting, there's a lot of discussion and sometimes a lot of frustration as how come the Euro model seems to do so much better. It just does better, and whether there can be lessons learned and some refinements made to the operational models we have based in the U.S. We have some fine ones. The GFS does, the North American model, we have a lot. The Hurricane Center has its own. It just has a hot hand. You know, and what happens in the forecasting business is with other models too, and we see the spaghetti plots, just not for hurricanes, but spaghetti plots for all storms, they're all over the place. But when you have a model that has a hot hand, that it got the last one right, and they're historically good at hurricanes, you tend to favor that. But then you scratch your heads when the best model in hurricanes is way over to the east and everybody else is the west. And give kudos to the National Hurricane Center. They did not discount it. They kept it with them when they made their cone of uncertainty. They kept it in there. So that's why if the Euro wasn't part of it, the initial forecast probably would have had everything coming into Savannah, Georgia. It would have come up and made a sharp left-hand turn, and that's what we would have been going with until we got to this morning and they got enough data in to turn it back to sea.
How great is it to always be able to tap on our man, Chief Meteorologist Doug Hill, at times like this. Thank you so much for being here today. Good luck, and we'll talk to you again soon. Have a great weekend. We'll step aside. Back with more right after this.